All right, welcome. You can have a seat. The front row is totally open. Don't be afraid. You know. I hope not. On your chairs, you'll find 3 different documents. You'll find our source sheet for our teaching that will begin in just a few minutes. You will find our Siddur, which contains Mariv and all of Eicha. And you'll also find the yellow sheet, which I don't have right now, which has the readings and our songs that we will be singing and reading during the chanting of Eicha. Thank you. All right, so if everyone can take out, it should be a white piece of paper. It says Exaggerating the Past. Okay. So we're going to do a little text study. I promise not to spend too much time, even though I feel like I could, where we are going to look at the very first verse in Eicha, the Book of Lamentations, and a Midrash that the rabbis wrote about part of this verse. Around the year, it was compiled around the year 500 or so about 1,500 years ago. Do I have a volunteer who'd like to read the first verse out loud? Or nice and loud so everyone can hear, Bob. Oh, no, we can pause there. So that's the very first verse of the Book of Lamentations, which our sages say was written by Jeremiah. And is there anything that you notice in this verse? Like, what sticks out to you? There's a little hint. I did bold part of it, but you feel free to look at the entire verse. What sticks out? What comments or questions do you have? Yes.
There is labor and then there's forced labor. So I guess we are differentiating between just people who labor in the city and people who are forced to labor because they have to do things no one wants to do, or I'm trying to figure out what to do with that.
Yeah. It's perhaps they were forced to do something they did not want to do. They were kicked out of their land. All that they knew is now destroyed, and now they're forced to live a life that they don't want. Any other comments or questions on this first verse? Yes.
Forced into doing something kind of sad to think, but really appreciate it for it.
Absolutely. Any other comments? Yep. Yeah. What does that mean to have a lonely city? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you may have picked up on that. I did bold it, the city that overflowed with people. So we're going to look at the Midrash of what did that look like? Our rabbis who were not there are trying to imagine what was this city of Jerusalem like before it went up in flames. Yeah. Yeah. So let's take a look at the Midrash to see how our rabbis did envision it. And they did. They just this one Midrash talks about how huge the city of Jerusalem was. And there's countless other Midrashim in Eicha Rabbah that talk about how wealthy the city was and how smart the people were. And they imagined this like perfect utopic city of Jerusalem. So I'll read. Feel free to follow along. The greatly crowded city. Rabbi Shmuel taught there were 24 thoroughfares in Jerusalem. Each and every thoroughfare had 24 streets. Each and every street had 24 market streets. Each and every market street had 24 store streets. Each and every store street had 24 courtyards. Each and every courtyard had 24 houses, and each and every courtyard would have twice the number of those who departed from Egypt emerging from it. It's about like a little over 1 million people. Anything that we notice about what Rabbi Shmuel taught? Anything that sticks out to you? The significance of 24, yeah. Twice the number of tribes. Any other thoughts? Symmetry? Seven's not there, yeah. Number of hours in a day. So it's a great question, and the only answer I could find that like some rabbi gave was that there's 24 books in the Tanakh, and that was the only thing that like anyone really came up with was about like why 24? There's like it's not a popular number in Judaism. It's not 40 or 7. You know, it's 24. I like 24 hours in a day. I think that's really nice. Yeah. Oh, interesting. I like that. Let's continue. So as of now, like we have Rabbi Shmuel said that this is a huge city. There's 24. There's like a 1.2 million residents living in Jerusalem. I don't know how many people live in Jerusalem now. I think it's about 1 million. I don't know. So this is like huge. All right. Knowing that it is so, as Rabbi Elazar said, there was an incident involving a traveler who was ascending to Jerusalem who took with him 200 camels laden with pepper. That's a lot of pepper. Yeah. He passed Tyre and found a certain tailor who was sitting near the city gates. He said to him, "What are you carrying?" He responded, "Pepper." He said to him, "Will you not give me a bit?" He said to him, "No." He said to him, "Then you will have a purchaser only in another city." When he arrived in Jerusalem, he found a certain tailor sitting at the gate of the walls, who said to him, "What are you carrying?" He said to him, "Continue your cutting." He found another tailor who said to him, "What are you carrying?" He said to him, "Continue your sewing." He said to him, "If I can purchase them, fine. But if not, I will bring you a person who can purchase all of them." He said to him again, "What are you carrying?" He said to him, "Pepper." He took him and brought him into a certain courtyard, and he showed him a core of dinars. Now I had to look this up, and apparently a core is just like an absolute ton of dinars, a ton of money. He said to him, "Look at these coins. If they are currency in your land, take from them." In the morning, the visiting merchant went to stroll in the marketplace, and one of his friends encountered him. He said to him, "What are you carrying?" He said to him, "Pepper." He said to him, "Do you not have any that you could give me for 100 dinars? For I have a feast today." He said, "I already sold it to so-and-so." He went to him. He said to him, "Do you have the pepper that you purchased? Give me a bit, as I have a feast." He said to him, "What can I tell you? I already sold it to a certain tailor. I will tell him, and I will give it to you." He went and he found it in a certain residence. Those who were in the first line of poor purchasers took 1 ounce each. So not a lot. There's 200 camels filled with pepper. An ounce of pepper is like a tiny amount. It's got to be pounds and pounds, millions of pounds of pepper. Those who were in the second line took 1/2 ounce each. Those who were in the third line did not sense that there had been any at all to realize what it is stated, the greatly crowded city. So we're going to pause here. How does this story kind of connect to the idea that Jerusalem was an enormous city filled with people with tons of money, now tons of pepper? I know, yeah. A lot of people interested in buying pepper, you know. And it's like it doesn't even say that like it completely ran out. They say that the people who were in line third did not even think that there would be enough pepper because there were just so many people, and it was just an enormous amount of people in the city and pepper that was purchased. I think we're gonna not read this next part. You can read it on your own. It's also very interesting. It talks about how they could figure out how many people lived in the city of Jerusalem. But what I want to discuss is, let's imagine we're reading the first verse of Eicha, and it discusses that how this greatly overpopulated city is now sitting in ruins. It's a lonely city. What are the rabbis, the people who did not? What are they? Year between 200, 500 or so CE. So after the second temple destruction. And they're writing this story of the ideal vision of Jerusalem. They're longing for a past that may not have actually existed. Right? They see, well, what could it have been like? But do you think it was actually like this? They're remembering something that happened 500 years ago. Yeah, place of peace and tranquility. Almost utopian, yeah. Any other thoughts? Yes. Less people assimilating? Rabbi? Okay, tell me more. I don't know if Pepper. I think it was this guy's traveling from far away. Pepper was probably maybe it was exotic. It was this new spice that people wanted. It tastes good. I love pepper on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Um, so I want to kind of like put us in the shoes of these rabbis. They're longing for a past, whether it actually existed or not. They're looking to like the glory days of Jerusalem. There's a Bruce Springsteen song. It's a little cheesy, "Glory Days," where he's like remembering what it was like in high school. He had a friend playing baseball. Remember the glory days? Like they're long gone. Now we're sitting here. We're a little older. I think the song was in '84, so he's been playing for a while. You know, and so these rabbis are like, what were the glory days really like before even our time? And I started like thinking about what does it mean to like think about how the past was if we weren't actually there. And we hear these stories, or we're making up stories of just how amazing the past was. And we can actually kind of like get stuck there. And sitting there, whether they were wherever they were sitting, or the author of Eicha, where he's sitting, they're longing for a past. They're trying to go back in time, but they can't. And I was reading about, like, what does it mean when you long for the past? It means that you're, yes. Yeah. And one thing that I noticed, that, like, when you're longing for the past, you have some sort of, like, trauma that may have caused you, that you're dissatisfied with where you are currently, and you want to go back to something that was glorious, the glory of Jerusalem, something that you did not maybe experience as these rabbis living in the year 500 or so. And you're hoping for, like, this return to greatness that may not have actually existed, for the chance to buy pepper, in this marketplace. And they're struggling to, like, be present in the moment. They want to return to a time that they think may have been better than where they're living. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thought that I had about why would the rabbis, who may have been living a nice life, would talk about how great Jerusalem was. Yeah.
Out in the world that they were forced into, but they had to stay anchored to the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
You have to stay anchored to the past and trying to come to terms with how to be in the present but not lose the past,
Mm-hmm.
which can be a difficult journey, because if you spend all of your time just pining for the past, you do miss out on what's going on right now.
Yeah.
But Judaism is built on a bedrock of having a sacred, maintaining the sacred in the past while being able to be in the present.
Very nice. I was thinking that when they may have written this, they're trying to connect with the people who also did not experience the glory of Jerusalem. And they're trying to get people to remember what it was like on Tisha B'Av. And how can you get a community of Jews living in exile to connect to something that they have no connection to? And so maybe the Chazan Smith? Oh, so I think, they may have written this, like, it was filled with people. There were 24 houses on every corner street, and there's all this pepper, and it was just the best place to live in the entire world. And it may have allowed them to try and connect to something that they have no idea what it was actually like. On Tisha B'Av, even like today, we might struggle. What was it like 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, when the temples were destroyed? And it's hard to imagine. Like, now we can go to Jerusalem and we can live there. And, like, I think these rabbis were trying to say, like, how can I connect my people today to what it was like back then? Chazan Smith? They were also fighting this whole nation. Yeah, exactly.
Be Jewish in a place where you don't have the temple, you don't have the land.
Mm-hmm.
So the audience, Jews had no idea what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they wanted to try and maintain a unique identity of foreign land and not assimilate it to nothingness.
Yeah.
So why not create a mythos that says how great this was? Don't you want this?
Yeah. It's called marketing. Yeah. Do you think it's healthy, though, to kind of, like, long for the past in such a way of saying, like, it was the greatest it will ever be? Where we are today is nothing to where it was then. There's no way we can rebuild what it was like. No. Why are you saying no? Yeah. I love that. Way in the back. Yeah.
They're describing what it was, but in their mind, that's what people get back.
Mm.
If you want to create it, rebuild it, this is what their house is, this is what they. So I think it is healthy. You don't want to do it in a way that, you want to push people, make people versatile, but at the same time, you want to strive.
Oh, I love that. It's not what it actually was, but it's what we can strive for. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Also be like delusion, to not be loosely,
Mm.
you get uprooted,
Mhm.
have a computer, drugs, and stories,
Yeah. Jeremiah?
All the answer is physical ideal or religious
Mm.
idealized ideal. Right? It's almost that my focus is really between Rambam, whether it's a spot and return
Mm.
ideal or not.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, just talk about it. Just maybe you think about whether they really ever would have wanted to go back just physically,
Yeah.
or whether it was always a spiritual ideal that we rebuilt the temple, and that's really the glory,
Mm.
not the city, but
Yeah.
God.
God rest.
The city.
Yeah. Very nice. Do you think I want to kind of like challenge us a little bit though? Do you think if this is the ideal, whether it's like returning there physically or returning there spiritually, do you think if we don't actually get there to what the ideal is, will we ultimately never find the joy? No? Say more.
trying to do it brings you up to another level.
Mm.
And you just keep bringing yourself up, and you may not ever get there, but you've gotten higher than you were when you started.
I love that. Yeah.
So large words, perhaps more about maturity.
Mm. Yeah.
Generationally and like people wise. So it's like if we're all striving towards this, like we return to Jerusalem one day, we're going to rebuild this glory. It's not about actually doing it, it's about the connection that
Mm.
that bridge between generations of people talking about Jerusalem and the community and everyone talking together.
Love that. Any other thoughts or comments? So I want to like end in just a couple of moments with kind of what I was seeing through this midrash was they were longing for this past, right? Whether or not it actually existed or if it's the ideal future, I think they can kind of you can get stuck if you are only looking backwards the entire time and you're not just like sitting there present at your current situation, learning from what happened in the past, whether it was as great as they say it was, but look what happened next. Following the greatness of Jerusalem, it collapsed. So, not necessarily how do we return to the greatness, but how do we take action now to reinvent it? Like the rabbis were reinventing what Judaism was. They had to do something. Now that there is no temple, there's no Jerusalem to go back to the way it was. Like they had to reinvent it. That's what they're doing in this time period, recreating what Judaism is. And what I want us to do on this Tisha B'Av, and as we enter the holiday season, I want us to like look back at our own personal lives. What was great about it? When did the walls tumble down like they did in Jerusalem? What caused that fire? And how can we reinvent ourselves in the present moment rather than just longing for a past of greatness, but taking those moments, reinventing ourselves, and creating a better future for ourselves, for our communities, making Jerusalem the ideal that it can be, whether it's the physical place, the spiritual place in our hearts, and ensuring that we're not just sitting thinking backwards the entire time, but we're planted solidly in the present with our eyes forward. But sometimes we need to reflect on how to get there. Thank you. Is David Childs here? I don't believe so. Okay, so Chazan Smith is going to lead us in Mariv. It is found in our little booklets. I will invite Chazan Smith to come.
Because Tisha B'Av begins on Saturday evening, our students tonight will include a short Havdalah at the beginning and in the Midrash itself, which is paragraph the possible name. Remember that, I'll announce it at the time. We begin by saying, thank you, there we are, thank you. We begin by saying, Baruch HaMavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, והרבה להשאיר אפו ולא יאיר כל חמתו. אדוני הושיע, המלך יעננו ליום קוראנו. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai HaMa'ariv Ha'Ragim Ha'Olam Beit Yisrael. El Chai, Gavatecha tasir mimenu ve'olamim. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Yahweh. Amen. Middle of page 7. Walk with over a tonki Abraham, Moshe, Bnei Israel, Kalu, Shira, Simcha, Rabba, Ram, Nichamocha, Bailim, Adonai, Nichamocha, the God of Kodesh, Torah, the Hirot, Hoseh, Atu, the Tabu, Verakavayam, Moshe, Adonai, Yimloch, Leolam, ונאמר כי פתרנו ליעקב ואלוהים יחזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני על ישראל השכיב בנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום תמיד מכים לחיים לא שמים שכת שומר ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד. ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן. ברוך אדוני ציון שלכם ירושלים. כי המלכות שלך היא, ולעולמי תמלוך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ועל כל מעשיו. Please rise יתגדל ויתגדל שמי רבה, ויעלמה דברה כרותי במלכמה חוטי, וכי יכול ביום אחד וכי ידכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב, אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, יתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי בקודשה בריחו, לאלה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירם בעלמה ואמרו amen. Our silent Amidah begins on page 13, and then on page 14, the paragraph, we tried to include the paragraph of Atachonantanu Lamadat Toratech at the conclusion of Shabbat. יתקרא וקרא שמרה בה, ויעלמה דיבה כבותי ויענך מלכותי, וחייכון ויעמכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל, עגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן, יש מרה בה וברק לעלם על עלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח יתפאר ותמלך יתנשא ויתרא ותרא ותרא שמי וקודשה בריחו, לאלה מכל ברכתה ושבתה תשבחתה ונחמתה תמירם בעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צורך ולבטון דחה ישראל קדם ובונה בשמיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רב משמיה וחיים עלינו כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו כל ישראל ואמרו amen. Because it is Friday night, we do recite Saturday night, thank you. Because it is Saturday night, we do recite the blessings over the candle. So, now getting it lit, that's the problem. Stay lit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei me'orei ha'esh. Our service continues now with the reading of Megillat Eicha.
So before we start that, there's a battery operated candle. So if you want to get on the ground, and when you grab them, you may have to take the wrap off some of them. So.
Feel free to grab a battery-powered lamp on the table over there and come back. And if you're comfortable, have a seat on the floor. Okay, we're going to begin on the yellow Tisha B'Av song and reading sheets. We'll begin together where it says number 1, introduction. Does everyone have there? Please join me. As Tisha B'Av approaches, we begin our descent toward the rubble. Our hearts crack open and sorrow comes flooding in. Help us to believe that tears can transform, that redemption is possible. The walls will come down. Open our eyes. Give us strength not to look away. I think our first reader is Bob Epstein, right? I'm going to try.
Echa yashva badad ha'ir rabati am hayta ke'almana rabati vagoyim sarati b'medinot hayta lamas ואחותי תבכה בלילה, בדמעתה עליכיה, אין לה מנחם מכל אוהביך, כל רעיך בגדו בה, היו לה לאויבים. גלתה יהודה מעוני, Galta Yehuda Leoni. Wait a second here. Galta Yehuda Leoni. Vavda hi yashva goyim lo matzah manoach. Korodefa hisiguha ben hamitzarim. Darechei Tzion avelot. Mibli ba'emoed. Kol she'arecha shomemin. Kohanecha nechenachim. Betulotecha nugod. V'himar la. Hayutzarecha lerosh oivecha shalom, ki Adonai hoga al rov pishaecha, olalecha alchu shvi lifnei tzar, vayetze mibat Zion kol hadara, hayutzarecha ki ayalim Lo matzu mireh, vayelchu belo koach lifnei rodef. Zachra Yerushalayim, yemei onya umrodeha, kol machabudecha, asher hayu mimei kedem. Binvol ama biyad sar, v'ein ozer la, ra'u hatzarim, sakhu al mishpateha, et chata Yerushalayim, al kein l'nida hayta. Kol mechabedecha hizilucha, ki ra'u erbata, gam hi nechenecha v'tashov achor. Tumata besjulecha lo zachra acharita vateret pilayim ein menachem la Re'e Adonai et oni ki higdil oyev Yado parasar al komachamadecha Ki ra'atav goyim bahu migdasha asher tzivita lo yavohu abakachal lach kol amaneh mevakshim lechem natnu machamadehem v'yochel hashiv nafesh Re'e Adonai v'chabita ki haiti zolela Lo alechem kol ovrei derech habitu uru im yesh machov kemachovi asher olali asher hoga Adonai biyom charon apo mimarom Shalach eish be'atzmotai be'yirdena Paraz reshet l'raglai cheshivani achor Natanani shomema kol hayom davar Nizkad al peshai beyado Yistargu alu al savarari pikshil kohi Netanani Adonai bidei lo chalkum Sila kol avirai Adonai bikirbi kara alai moed lishbor bachurai Gad darach Adonai live tulad bat Yehuda Al ele ani bochia Eini Yordamaim Kirachak mimenu Menachem Meshiv nafshi Chayu bahanai Shomemim Kigavar oyev Peresat Zion biyadecha Ein menachem laha Tziva Adonai Le'Yaakov Sevivav tzarav Hayeta Yerushalayim Lenida Beinehem Sadiku Adonai Kipihu Mariti Shimuna Kol Ha'amim Ur'u Machovi Betulot Hayu Bachurai Halchu Bashevi Karati Lama'ahavai Hey Marimuni Kohanai Anayus kenai ba'ir gavau ki bakshu ochel lamo vayashivu et nafsham Re'ei Adonai kitzar li me'ai chomar manu nefach libi bikirbi ki maro mariti michushich Shichlach erev b'bayit kamavet shamu ki ne'emnacha ani ein menachem li ki oyavai Sham urati sasu kiata asita eveta yom karata vihu kamoni tavo koratam lefanecha ve'olelamo ka'asher olalta li al kol pishai Hirabot anachontai v'libi davai.
Cantor David Childs will now lead us in a song.
By the waters of Babylon, we lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, we remember thy Zion. It sounds like you know this song, so we're going to do a round. So these folks are going to be the first part, you're going to be the second part, you're going to be the third part, and when I point to you, you're going to start from the beginning, okay? By the waters of Babylon, by the waters of Babylon, by the waters of Babylon. We lay down and wept for thee, Zion. 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 We lay
We continue with chapter 2. Eicha Yair Ba'apo Adonai et Bat Zion Hishlich Mishamayim Eretz Tiferet Yisrael Lo Zachar Hadom Ragrav B'Yom Apo Bila Adonai Velo Chamal Hey Kol neot Yaakov haras bevrato Mitzrei vat Yehuda higia la'aretz Chilel mamlecha v'sareha Gada b'chariyav Kol Keren Yisrael Heshiva Chor Yemino mipnei oyev, vayivar b'Yaakov ke'esh lehava, ochela saviv, darach kashto ke'oyev, nitzav yemino ketzar, vayaharog כל מחמדי עין, באוהל הציון, שפך כאש חמתו. היה אדוני כאויב, בילה ישראל, בילה כל ארמנותיה, שחט מבשריו. וירב בבת יהודה, תעניה ועדיה, ויחמוס כגן סוכו, שיחת מועדו. שיקח אדוני בציון, מועד ושבת, וינעץ בזם אפו, מלך וכהן. זנח אדוני מזבחו, ניר מקדשו, הזכיר ביד אויב, חומות ארמנותיה. כה נתנו בבית אדוני כיום מועד. חשב אדוני להשחית קומת בציון, נתקיו לא השיב ידו מבעליה, ויהבל חיל וחומה יחדיו אומללו. טבעו בארץ שעריה, איבד ושיבר בריחיה, מלכה ושריה וגויים, אין תורה, גם נביאיה לא מצאו חזון מאדוני. ישבו לארץ ידמו, זקני בת ציון, העלו עפר על ראשם, חגרו שקים, הורידו לארץ ראשן, בתולות ירושלים. כלו דמעות עיני, חמרמרו מעי, נשפך לארץ כבדי, על שבר בטני. ועטף עולל ויונק ברחובות קריה, לאמותם יאמרו איה דגן ויין, והקטפם כחלל ברחובות עיר, והשתפך נפשם אל חיק אמותם. מעידך לעד מלך, הבת ירושלים, מה אשפלך אנחמך בתולת בת ציון. כי גדול קיים שברך מעיר פלח, נביאייך חזו לך שבת אפל, ולא גילו את עבודי להשיב שבותך. ויחזו לך מסעות שווא ומדוכים, ספקו עלי כפיים כל עוברי דרך, שרקו ויוניעו ראשם על בת ירושלים. הזאת העיר שיאמרו כלילת יופי, משוש לכל הארץ. פצו עלייך פיהם כל אויבייך, שרקו ויחרקו שם, אמרו בילנו, איך זה היום שקיווינו מצינו ראינו עשה אדוני אשר זמם ביצע אמרתו אשר ציווה מימי קדם הרס ולא חמל וישמח עלייך אויב הרים קרן שרייך צעק ליבם אל אדוני חומת בציון הורידו חנך על דמעה יומם ולילה אל תיתני פוקת לך אל תדום בת עינך קומי רוני ולילה לראש השמורות שפכי המים ליבך נוכח פני אדוני שאי אליו כפייך על נפש עוללייך עטופים ברעב בראש חוצות אדוני והביטה למי עוללת כה אם תאכלנה נשים פריים עוללי טיפוחים אם יהרג ממקדש אדוני כהן ונביא שכבו לארץ חוצות נער וזקן בתולותיי ובחוריי נפלו בחרב הרגת הגויים ביום אפיך טבחת לא חמלת תקרא היום מועד מגוריי מסביב ולא היה ביום אף אדוני הליק בשרים אשר טיפחתי ורביתי אויבי חילה.
We're going to continue with a reading in our yellow handout. It says before chapter 3, reading adaptation of Lamentations 2. We'll read responsively. Zion sits on the earth, her song silenced. We cast dust on the head, girded as in sackcloth, our heads bowed down to the ground. Our eyes are spit with tears, our bowels grumble, our livers are poured unto the dust because of the destruction. Children and babies fall in the streets. What comfort is there for this when ruin is great like the sea? Others hiss and wag their fingers, saying, "These are the chosen ones, called perfections of beauty, joys of the whole earth." Our hearts cry out to God. Zion's walls of protection lay in ruins. We cry out in the night. We pour out our hearts like water. Our hands rise up for the lives of our young. The poor faint in hunger. On this appointed day, you call us into the terror at all sides. The walls are smashed. We'll continue with chapter 3.
אני הגבר, אני בשבט עברתו, לא תנהג ויולך חושך ולא אור, אך בישוב יבוך ידו כל היום. בילה בשרי ואורי שיבר עצמותי, בנה עלי ויקף ראש ותלאה, במחשכים הושיבני כמתי עולם. גדר בעדי ולא אצא, הכביד נחושתי, גם כי אזעק ואשבע, סתם תפילתי. גדר דרכי בגזית, נתיבותי עיוור. דוב עורב הוא לי, ארי במסתרים, דרכי סורר ויפשטני, שמני סומם, דרך קשתו ויציבני, כמטרה לחץ. הביא בכליותי בני אשפתו, הייתי שחוק לכל עמי, נגינתם כל היום. השפיעני במרומים, הרבני לענה, ויגרס בחצת שיני, הכפישני באפר, ותזנח משלום נפשי, נשיתי טובה, ואומר עבד נצחי, ותאכלתי מאדוני. זכור עוני ומורדי, לענה וראש, זכור תזכור, ותשוח עלי נפשי, זאת אשיב אל ליבי, על כן אוכיל. חסדי אדוני כי לא תמנו, כי לא חלו רחמיו, חדשים לבקרים רבה, אמונתך. חלקי אדוני אמרה נפשי, על כן נאכיל. טוב אדוני לקובב, לנפש תדרשנו, טוב ויכיל בדומם, לתשועת אדוני. טוב לגבר כי יישא עול בנעוריו. ישב בדד בידום כי נטל עליו, ייתן בעפר פיהו, אולי יש תקווה. ייתן למכהו לחי, יספה בחרפה, כי לא יזנח לעולם אדוני, כי אם הוגה בריחם, וקרוב חסדיו, כי לא עינה מליבו, ויגע בני איש. לדכא תחת רגליו כל אסירי הארץ, להטות משפט גבר נגד פני עליון, לעוות אדם בריבו, אדוני לא ראה. מי זה אמר ותהי, אדוני לא ציווה, מפי עליון לא תצא הרעות והטוב. מה יתאונן אדם חי, גבר על חטאיו. נכבשה דרכינו ונחקורה, ונשובה עד אדוני. נישא לבבינו אל כפיים, אל השמיים. אנחנו פשענו ומרינו, אתה לא סלחת. סקות באף תרדפנו, הרגת לא חמלת. סקות בענן לך, מעבור תפילה. שיחי ומעוז תשימנו בקרב העמים. פצו עלינו פיהם כל אויבינו, פחד ופחד היה לנו, השת והשבר. על גיא מים תרד עיני, על שבר בת עמי. עיני נגרע ולא תדע,
מעין הפוגות. אל ישקיף וירא אדוני משמיים, איני עולה נפשי מכל בנות עירי. סוד צעדוני כציפור, אוהבי חינם, צמתו בבור חיי, וידו אבן בי, צפו מים על ראשי, אמרתי נגזרתי. קראתי שמך אדוני, מבור תחתיות, קולי שמעת אל תעלם, אוזנך לרווחתי לשבתי. קרבת ביום אקראך, אמרת אל תירא. רבת אדוני, ריבי נפשי, גאלת אדוני חיי. ראית אדוני אהבתי, שפת משפטי. ראית כל נקמתם, כל מחשבותם לי. שמעת חרפתם אדוני, כל מחשבותם עלי. שפתי קמי והגיונם, עלי כל היום. שבטם וקימתם, הביטה אני מנגינתם. תשיב להם גמול אדוני, כמעשה ידיהם. תיתן להם מגינת לב, תהלך להם. תרדוף באף ותשמידם, מתחת שמי אדוני.
We'll return to our yellow sheets where it says before chapter 4, Psalm 30. Again, we'll read responsively. From the deepest place within me, I call out to you. God, hear what is in my voice. You are so generous with pardon, but we fear to seek it. Among the watchers for the dawn, my God, I yearn for your grace to end my darkness. We'll continue with chapter 4.
Echayom zahav yishne aketem hatov, Ishtapechna bnei kodesh, berosh kol chutzot. Bnei Sion haikarim hamesulalim bapaz, Echa nechshavu lenim becheres, Maaseh yedei yoser. Gam tani halsu shadhalkinu gorehen, Bat ami leachzar, Kayeinim bamidbar. Davak leshon yonek el kiko basama, Olalim shalu lechem chores, En lahem. האוכלים למעדנים נשמו בחוצות, האמונים עלי תולך, טיפחו השפתות. ויקטל עוון בת עמי מחקת סדום, הפוכה כמו רגע, ולא חלו הידיים. זכו נזיריה משלג צחו מחלב, אדמו אסם מתנינים ספיר גזרתם. חשכנו שחור כנוערם, לא נקרו בחוצות, שפת אורם על עצמם יבש היה העת. טובים היו חללי חרב וחללי רעב, שהם יזובו מדוכרים בתנובות שדי ידיהם. נשים רחמניות בישלו ילדיהן, היו לברות למו ושבר בת עמי. כי לאדוני את חמתו שפך חרון אפו, ויצאת אש בציון ותאכל יסודותיה. לא האמינו מלכי ארץ כל יושבי תבל, כי יבוא שר ואויב בשערי ירושלים. וחטאות נביאיה, עוונות כהניה, השופטים בקרבה, דם צדיקים. נעו עיוורים בחוצות, יגולנו בדם, ולא יאכלו יקחו בלבושיהם. צורו טמא, קרבו למו. צורו, אל תיגעו, תנסו גם נעו. אמרו בגויים, לא יוסיפו לגור. פני אדוני חלקם לא יוסיף להביטם, פני כהנים לא נשאו, וזקנים לא חננו. עודנו תכלנה עינינו, אל עזרתנו האבל, וספייתנו ציפינו אל גוי לא יושיע. צעדו צעדינו מלכת ברחובותינו, חרב כיסנו, מלאו ימינו, כי ותצאנו. קלים היו רודפינו, מנשרי שמיים, על ההרים דלקונו, במדבר ארבו לנו. רוח אפינו משיח אדוני, נלכד בשחיתותם, אשר אמרנו בסילו נחיה בגויים. סיסי ושמחי בת אדום, יושבת בארץ חוץ. ים עלייך תעבור כוס, תשכרי ותתארי. קם עוונך בת ציון, לא יוסיף להגלותך. פקד עוונך בת אדום, גילת חטאותייך.
Once again, we'll return to our yellow handouts. It says before chapter 5. We'll read again responsively. By the rivers of Babylon we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. For there those who carried us away captive required of us a song, and those who tormented us required of us mirth, saying, if I forget you, Jerusalem, right hand forget me. Happy shall he be who repays you for what you have done to us. We'll continue with chapter 5, page 43.
לזרים, בתינו לנחרים. יתומים חיינו ואין אב, אמותינו כאלמנות. מימינו בכסף שתינו, עצנו במחיר יבואו.
Al tzovareinu nirdofnu, yaganu velo hunach lanu. Mitzrayim natnu yad, Ashur nishpo alachem. Avotenu chatu ve'enam, vanachnu avonotenu savalanu. Avadim mashluvanu, orei ein yadam. V'nafshenu navi lachmenu, mipnei cherev hamidbar. Oreinu ketanur nichmaru, mipnei zalafot rav. Nashim b'tzion inu, betulot be'arei Yehuda. Sorim be'adan nitlu, nezukenim lo nechtaru. Bachurim neton nasha'u, unarim be'etz kashalu. Zukenim nishar shavatu, Bachurim min ginatam. Shava misos libeinu, nechvach laevel mecholeinu. Nafela ateret roshenu, oina lanu ki chatanu. Al zeh hayadaver libeinu, al ele ashru eineinu. Al Zion sheshamem shualim hilchu bo. Ata Adonai leolam teshev, Kisacha ledor vador. Lama lanetzach tishkachenu, tazvenu leorech yamim. Hoshivenu Adonai elecha, v'nashuva kadesh yameinu kekedem. Ki me'os teinu, Hatzavta aleinu ad meod. Hashivenu Adonai elecha, v'nashuva Kadesh yameinu kekedem. Hashivenu Adonai elecha, v'nashuva Kadesh yameinu kekedem. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are, return to who you are, return to where you are, born and reborn and reborn. Hashivenu Adonai elecha. ונשוב חדש, חדש, ימינו כקדם.
Now invite Chazan Smith back up here to finish mine.
Yom